Okay. That's right, we finally saw Boss Baby.
What a fucking baffling movie.
You know what? I actually really kind of like this movie.
We are on different pages of the book here.
I at least liked it better than someone who was in the bathroom before me.
Oh,
because
yeah?
before the movie started, I went to go use the restroom, and I was in the stall, and I looked down on the floor and was like, this doesn't bode well, because there was a ticket down there that was ripped to shreds for Boss Baby, and I don't mean it was just torn and the stub was on there. I mean, it looked like somebody had a ticket for Boss Baby and was like, and threw it on the ground. Maybe stepped on it. I don't know.
You know, the weird thing is that the trailer for this movie
is not this movie.
It's not this movie. Well, it's baffling in that it goes beat for beat what happens in the movie, but then leaves out all of the bizarre elements that are the actual plot of it.
It does. It's like sort of opposite Collateral Beauty in that regard, because I was not sold on the trailers for this movie. I thought the movie looked really fucking bad.
The movie was still bad to me, but it was way different than the trailers made it seem.
Yeah.
It was a less obnoxious plot than the trailers made it seem. I'll at least give it that.
Yeah, and like they maybe... Part of me is like, well, that'll be a nice surprise for people going to see this, because there's actually a lot more to this movie than the trailers make it look.
Yeah.
But the other part of me is like, maybe they should have put some of that in the trailer, because it would have looked better.
Honestly, yeah.
Whereas Collateral Beauty, suckered you in to go see this movie, and they just fucking farted in your face on the screen for an hour and a half.
Well, Boss Baby farted in your face for an hour and a half, too.
No, that was just the one scene.
You know, they didn't have as much fart humor as I thought, but there's sure enough drool humor, ass humor. Immediately, when you first see the baby, it's just a bunch of baby asses with dancing cheek to cheek playing while they're doing that.
What part was this?
When the babies are all on the conveyor belt and you first see where babies come from.
Oh, it's playing
They
Heaven.
start playing, that song, and they're making a joke about ass cheeks.
Yeah, I mean, I actually kind of liked that scene, honestly. Like, I thought it, like, yeah, there was some silly stuff in there, but I don't know. For me, that was like, I like that song for one.
Well, I like the song,
and
but
two, like, it was weird. It was like the whole movie, honestly. It's like, yeah, there was some like juvenile stuff in that opening sequence, but when it got down to like they're separating babies off from being actual babies, and then other babies which are picked to work in Orson Welles' The Trial, from that point, I was like, this movie might be a little different than I'm expecting it to be.
I don't get how any of this works. I guess just magic.
No, I kind of do, honestly. And it was what I appreciated about this movie. Like, the whole thing is kind of just a story that an older guy is telling his kid about when his brother was born. And when you see the person as a kid, it is a kid with a very heightened imagination.
Yeah, but the plot stuff can't happen without some of it being real, though. There are parts that are fantasy sequences, but then it's like, well, why are they going to Vegas to go save the parents?
And that I chalked up by the end, like the whole thing is just this story that this adult is telling his kid. But then other parts come across like it's
why are there elements of the story that don't take place with that kid? There's things with the Boss Baby in the corporation parts of it.
Yeah,
why is the baby introduced twice?
Because the movie, by the end of it, you see that, like, even at the beginning, the movie has a narrator where I don't think you're really supposed to take everything literally. Like, even, like, from beginning to end, like, it is just a story he's telling. It's not a reliable narrator. And then throughout it, like, yeah, there's these like Ralph Parker from A Christmas Story dream sequences where sometimes he's a pirate and sometimes he's fighting space aliens and things like that. So through a lot of the movie, it felt like this whole thing with the baby coming in and being everybody's boss seemed like it was just sort of this fantasy he was creating in his head to kind of cope with the fact he's got a little brother. But then in some action sequences, these big action set pieces would be going on, and then it would either go into imagination land, or adults would be looking at him and something realistic. It'd be showing it, but from a more realistic point of view.
They kind of do it both ways, because I get that they're doing that, but there are other parts where it doesn't make sense, and that's why the story doesn't come together for me. Because like they have the scene, and they show this in the trailer, where they're having the big car chase trying to get the tape, and then the parents look, and it's really just a baby and a kid in a stupid toy car.
Yeah.
But then when the parents go out, they see there's like remnants from this explosion. That unless there was an explosion, why would that be going on? Or like the baby hanging from the tree, how did that happen?
No,
I was like the baby throwing the other one through the window. Did that happen? I don't know.
I was thinking that too, but once it got to the end of the movie, it did sort of, all of that did sort of make sense to me. And what didn't make sense to me in regards to that, because 98% of the movie, I understood that, because it's an unreliable narrator. It's somebody telling this story to their kid. So, yeah, there's a lot of cartoonish stuff that's going on. But then at the end of the movie, when we see reality, the kid is an adult and his brother is a businessman and still has Alec Baldwin's voice. His daughter that he's telling this story to is about to have a sister, and then it shows the sister and it's kind of the same. She's wearing a suit, like all that. That's when I was like, wait, so did this all really happen, or does this kid also kind of have an imagination as well? Like, that part I was sort of like, it just seems like kind of this gotcha ending, but whatever.
Well, I mean, okay, let's pretend that this whole thing was just a story that he told and that none of it actually happened. It's not a good story. I didn't like it. I hate babies. I hate baby humor.
I am normal.
Sorry, guys.
I'm normally with you on that. I don't either. Well, except I love Look Who's Talking.
Look Who's Talking's funny.
Yeah, Look Who's Talking I really like. Yeah. But another thing I liked about this movie was that there are some real horror movie elements to this film. Like, to the point to where it seems like the people who made this really liked a lot of those old Disney cartoons that are also part horror movie. Because there's weird, like, fantasy sequences in this where it straight up will turn into a horror film. Like, his house is getting invaded by this little baby, and then the baby's friends are there, and then it goes into, like, narrow red horror movie hallway vision.
Yeah, some of those, like, 2D animated sequences.
Yeah.
The fantasy sequences, the ones that were obviously fantasy sequences, were the best parts of it. Like when he's talking to like his wizard alarm clock.
I loved that.
That was kind of funny. And the movie did get some laughs out of me.
Same here.
I laughed when they pretend to be like these poor sick kids to get this limo full of women to take them to the convention
playing
center.
ladies' night.
Yeah, that was funny, and there were some funny moments in it. Just the overall story, I didn't like it.
I liked where
it feels too manufactured to me. I can't get into it.
Now, like an Illumination movie feels manufactured to me. This movie felt like it had ideas, like way more like. Okay, like not everyone's gonna like this movie, but this movie in its first 5 minutes has more imagination to it than any Illumination movie that I've ever seen. Like, this movie to me is at least, whether someone likes this movie or not, I think this movie is at least trying to be clever. I think it actually is trying to have some layers to it.
I mean, that's true.
And especially when it'll straight up, like I was saying, when it straight up will turn into a horror movie in some scenes. Like when he's got on those alien glasses and all the babies appear in front of him like they're the children of the damned. And then even like the plot that Alec Baldwin has in this is kind of like a zombie movie. Like he's almost turning into
like a werebaby or something.
Yeah, like he's kind of it's actually really horrific when you break it down. Like, because he has to, the reason he's smart and able to do what he does is because of this formula, and if he doesn't have enough of it, he will turn it into a baby.
Because apparently heaven or something is run by a bunch of eternal babies that are in management that send other babies to become regular babies on Earth. But the part of the movie's plot is that there's another baby who was kicked out and he grew up. And he decides to manufacture this puppy that will live forever, and then people will love puppies more than they love babies. And that's what this story, whether it's fictional in universe or not, hinges on. If there is a puppy that will stay a puppy forever, parents will love them more than babies. Human beings will cease to procreate. The world will end.
I can buy that in this universe. Like, this is like a weird Disney cartoon movie universe, and I can wrap my head around this movie.
What is the baby in Roger Rabbit?
Baby Herman.
Yeah, that's what it was, like Baby Herman.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. If I'd compare this baby to any other one, it would be Baby Herman. It wouldn't be like fucking Stewie Griffin or the little baby from Baby Crook from the Warner Brothers cartoon, or Little Man from the Wayans Brothers. Sure, let's bust out that classic.
Baby Geniuses. It was better than like Baby Geniuses.
Oh yeah, God yeah. Fuck.
I mean, because at least in this universe, he's a baby, but he's not like he's an adult person that looks like a baby.
Yeah.
So they do have the baby humor, but there is at least more of a character there that you get to work with. Especially
because, like I said, it is kind of horrific as the movie goes along, and he's this close to, like, completely, essentially dying. Like, turning into
a baby. He did by the end, didn't he?
Sort of.
He just died and became another baby?
That's the thing. Like, when, like, the baby goes back at the end to this baby office in the sky, for the whole movie, I was sitting there like, I kind of see where this movie is coming from. Like, it's this kid with a really powerful imagination is sort of fantasizing all of these sequences to kind of cope with having a brother. And then when it got to, like, the baby goes back and they wipe the memory clean from the parents.
It was like Men in Black or something.
Yeah, I was sitting there like, did the baby die? And, like, now this is the kid, like, coping with that?
Oh my God. No, I don't think they would do that.
No, neither did I, but I was sitting there like, this movie has surprised me every step of the way. Maybe that.
Before they introduced that, I was wondering, I'm like, so how do they explain that the baby's gone after that? But, like, they have some things that don't add up to me either. Like, they ask, you can see earlier in the movie when they're asking him if he wants a brother, that the mom's pregnant. And when they bring the baby back, and then he's talking to the baby says he was never born, he was hired. So I'm like, so did they just make, in this story, make the mom think that she was pregnant, or was it not?
I don't take a lot of it that literally, like, because this is a movie about several elements that are imagined and not necessarily happening the way we're perceiving it. So I really don't take this story that literally, that this guy is saying. I think that there's moments in there that reflect what actually happened, like her actually having a baby bump and things like that, versus just it's the equivalent of a parent telling their kid that a stork brought a baby to them.
Why was the bad guy gonna launch the puppies in a rocket?
You know what? By that point, I was like, I didn't know, honestly. Like, but by that point, I was like,
out, so I don't know.
It wasn't that I was checking out, and I do have problems with this movie, and you're kind of hitting on one of them for me. This is a very fast-paced movie. Like, it is. Like,
I could follow it as it was following the beats from the trailer, from what they showed. Because it was still like they left a lot of it out, but you could see like the beats from it, and I'm like, oh, we're already there. Oh, we're there. Okay, we're okay.
Yeah, like by the first, this is a really fast-paced movie, especially in the climax, and it's so rapid and quick, like pretty much every second of this movie, that when it got to this climax involving a rocket and this flood of puppies and things like that, like, I was having trouble keeping up. I was like, I know that probably if you just slowed this down a little bit, like, I could probably see how one connects to the other, but it just moved so fast. And honestly, because of that, because the whole movie it's pretty quickly paced. It's paced much like an old cartoon. Much in the way Storks was. I think Storks is a better movie than this, but like, it is more that kind of cartoon, like a really rapid fire one. And because of that, about a half hour into this movie, I did feel exhausted. Like, I was fascinated by everything that was going on, especially because this movie is wildly different than the trailers make it look. So I was really invested in that. It felt like a weird fever dream of a movie. But a half an hour in, it is so fast-paced that I was like, I can't tell, are we nearing the climax? Like, if this is just the first half hour, where is this movie going?
Yeah. Well, there were times where I just had to, like, close my eyes and just, like, calm myself down for a second because, like, it was just so much going on. Like, I'm like, I just gotta check out for a second. I gotta just, like,
I needed
breathe a bit.
I'm with you on that. Like, I kind of needed a little bit of a refresher about every 30 minutes. And you know what? Every now and then the movie would kind of slow down a little bit, but then it would just kind of pick right back up at that really quick pace.
I laughed at the Elvis impersonators
that stuff
talking in like Elvish, where they're just talking in Elvis lyrics.
That was funny, and it also made me think, all right, the person telling this story is a huge Honeymoon in Vegas fan.
When they were in the outfit, and then the guy tries to grab them and they leave and he goes like, "Oh, devil in disguise." That was pretty funny. I
enjoyed that. Like, I didn't...
They did have humor that adults would get. There were
quite a bit, honestly. Given how this movie seems relatively inspired by a lot of older cartoons, like, it feels more that kind of kids movie that it's also kind of geared towards adults too, way more than the trailers make it look. But
the trailers just make it look like a typical, like, brother versus brother, baby is smart, kid's dumb kind of thing. But that stops after the first, like, half hour.
No, it does.
And I was so grateful it did, because that's obnoxious.
I agree. Yeah, and because of that, I hated the trailers for this goddamn movie. But the movie isn't... I did laugh a fair amount of times in there. I laughed way more at Storks, which is for a lot of reasons why I like that movie better than this one. But I did get some laughs out of this. Not certainly enough to where I'd call this like a big laugh out loud riot of a movie. I don't. There was a lot of space between when I would really laugh out loud. But even when I wasn't laughing at this movie, I was still weirdly captivated by it.
Well, one thing that I did notice, it started out empty and then got really crowded around us, and there were a lot of kids.
Yeah.
But it was very quiet, which is weird for a kids movie. They laughed at parts that were funny, like for kids, and of course, like with the fart humor and stuff, they laughed at that, like you would expect. But through most of it, they were very quiet. They weren't fidgeting around, walking around. Like, it kept the audience's attention.
The lady next to me was laughing at about every other line in the movie.
They had to be in the middle. They sit right next to us, and then they move, and then they shuffle closer so they can be in the middle. It's like,
go away.
No.
Go leave us alone. God damn. I am not your friend.
I don't know if her boyfriend was having as much of a good time, because I could feel that bar jiggling with his impatient leg the whole time.
That's the shake of a man who didn't have to sit through Wildlife.
Oh, God. Okay, I will say this. It was better than Wildlife.
Of a lot of the kids' movies you and I have gone to go see, I enjoyed myself way more at this movie than I did Rock Dog or Wildlife or most of them that you and I have seen together.
It was better than Wildlife. I don't know about Rock Dog. Rock Dog wasn't good, but I didn't like this. So, I mean, I didn't like it like you did. It was not as bad as the trailers made it look.
No.
So, I mean, I'm not gonna, like, shit on it for that, but it's probably just because it's about babies, and I just don't give a shit about baby stories.
I get you. And normally I don't either.
I liked Look Who's Talking. And
same here.
It's kind of similar in that way. They had like the Bruce Willis voice for the kid,
Yeah.
and that's what made it funny. They got Alec Baldwin voice for the baby, and that's funny. And there were lines that were funny from Alec Baldwin too. But...
That movie also had a real human element to it too, because Look Who's Talking, like, yeah, the gimmick is Bruce Willis is the voice of the baby, and that certainly factors heavily into the movie. But it's also about her relationship with John Travolta and her ex-boyfriend and things like that.
Yeah, it feels like it's a heartfelt movie about these two, and there happens to be a talking baby in it.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's not just like, baby, stay out.
Oh, fuck that. Speaking of misleading trailers, I remember when the trailer for that piece of shit came out, which made it look wildly like there was a teaser trailer for that fucking movie where the baby was the size of a building, and the like fire department's like, no, put the cookie down. Like, I don't know, like he said something to the baby with a megaphone. I remember that, and I remember looking at my dad going like, well, we fucking making Honey, I Blew Up the Kid again? I don't think I said fuck, but
that's
like
another movie that's better than Boss Baby.
Which one?
Honey, I Blew Up the Kid.
Oh god, I don't agree with that.
Looks like this is going to be a controversial video. Hey audience, what do you think? Who do you side with?
The audience didn't go see this movie.
I can guarantee you, all the people watching this are people who didn't see Boss Baby and want to see a shit on Boss Baby.
Yes, that is exactly.
They're
and I get it. Yeah.
Sorely disappointed in
Oh, believe me, I am just as surprised as the commenters that I didn't dislike this movie.
You know what we should do? We should get them fighting with flat earthers. So flat earthers, the earth is round. Just get over it. The earth is round. Ghostbusters 2016 wasn't that bad. Did we get it covered?
That'll distract them. They'll be
like,
going off of that for a while.
Boss Baby, but then you mentioned Ghostbusters.
Then he mentioned Ghostbusters, another movie that I hate but haven't seen.
Why'd you bring that fucking SJW in your videos talking about Ghostbusters?
Just like them typical SJWs saying Ghostbusters was worth nothing more than a rental. I don't know, like, I didn't mind this movie, like, at all. Like, I'm probably not gonna watch the damn thing again, but, like, I see these fucking movies from, like, Illumination that aren't necessarily bad, but it's like Illumination puts so much money and so much advertising into scripts that do nothing and say nothing, and are just retreads of shit you've seen a million times, like fucking Secret Life of Pets. Not a terrible movie, but it's just fucking Toy Story again. Beat for beat, it's fucking Toy Story.
They're harmless but unambitious, and obnoxious in how they push it.
And yet, they put so much advertising into them, like they're the fucking second coming of Christ, and they're just unambitious retreads, and they go on and make hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars for just really doing nothing but advertising. And this movie, it's not great, it has its problems, but it at least has ideas. And I did laugh a fair amount in the movie.
I mean, they were funnier than Minions.
I didn't see Minions. Maybe I'm not being fair.
I didn't see the movie Minions. I've seen a short and trailers with the Minions, and I fucking hate them.
Well, we got the trailer for Despicable Me 3 in front of this.
Man, bad, bad. Look, this is not a good time for kids' movies. This is not a good time.
I think next weekend is Smurfs Lost Village.
Which I think will be a million times better.
Than this?
Yeah.
Actually, I don't think that movie looks that bad.
No, it doesn't look bad.
But I thought this movie looked like shit, and I liked it. I don't think Smurfs looks that bad, I might hate it.
I think Smurfs looks like it wants to be Trolls, and Trolls was surprisingly decent,
and Trolls was trying to be Smurfs.
It's like the snake eating its own tail.
Yeah, exactly. It's like when Friday the 13th was comes out, and like a lot of slasher movies then are trying to be like Halloween, and then later Halloween sequels come out trying to be like Friday the 13th. any fun. Is there any way you'd recommend seeing this?
Not really. I mean, I'll give it that it was different and better than the trailer made it out, but I didn't like it at all.
Right. It is.
I mean, if you like baby humor, you'll like it. I don't
like baby humor, and I kind of like this movie.
It's more than the trailer makes it seem, so.
And when I think baby humor, I think more like America's Funniest Home Videos. And this movie never did that for me. Like, I actually do recommend this movie. Like, but at the same time, if you don't like it, you're really not gonna, because it is a loud movie. So if you go into this movie and you come out with a headache, I'll understand. But this movie was kind of a surprise to me. So at the least, if you're curious, like, and believe me, I get being turned off from the trailer, and I get that's why you'd want to stay away from this movie. It's called fucking Boss Baby, for shit's sake. I mean, I get why you'd want to stay away, but if you are curious, like, honestly, I'd say it's worth a matinee screening. But if you really don't want to pay money to see it in the theater, I get it because of the trailers. At least rent it and give it a shot. Like, for me personally, like, if I spent like matinee money to go see this, I wouldn't have minded. I would have been like, all right, I got a nice little surprise out of this movie. I don't know what the fuck if I wasn't seeing this for a review, I don't know why I would have gone and seen it. I'm really bored that day. But if I did, I'd be like, you know what? All right, I guess that was all right.
That movie was pretty boss.
Bye.